Well, the growth of trade and economic ties between China and Australia is primed to explode. That's as Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull arrived in Beijing, along with business leaders and politicians. Now, they're hoping to promote their country as a prime destination for investment, tourism and education. Trade between the two has already seen a record number of deals. In 2015, its total value hit $113 billion. During that year, Chinese investment into Australia also grew more than 30% to over $11 billion. That cements Australia's rank as the second largest recipient of Chinese direct investment in the last decade. Well, the recently signed free trade deal between the two countries is expected to help Australia's GDP grow 0.7%, with China getting 0.1% boost. CCTV's Hou Na has the latest on the historic visit.
A delegation of more than 1,000 Australian business people constituted the country's largest ever trade mission to China. The visit comes hard on the heels of the China-Australia Free Trade Agreement, which came into force last December. In the Chinese capital, the health and elderly care industries is where their special focus is trained.
Across all of healthcare, there's great opportunities. There's already a lot happening in research. Our researchers developing sorts of similar approaches, devices, clinical trials and the like together. Aged care, so a lot of the management practices, a lot of the techniques for looking after aged people, I think are things that we've got experience in and that China might want to look at as well. And then, of course, as part of the China-Australia Free Trade Agreement, Australia now has the capacity to actually invest in and establish aged care facilities here in China.
Aging populations around the world are creating new opportunities and challenges for governments, healthcare systems, social services, and cultural traditions. China has a rapidly aging population with more than 130 million people aged 65 years or above, and that's 10% of the total population. China is investing heavily in health and aged care, with expenditure expected to reach 6.5 to 7% of the GDP by 2020. Experts say there are enormous opportunities of cooperation between the two countries.
China has very advanced hardware and facilities in the healthcare industry, but we are lagging behind in software and staff training.
Massive opportunities. There is so much that we can bring in from Australia. For example, many people think the accreditation standards and legislation in Australia is very, very complicated. But in actual fact, it's very easy to bring into the day-to-day opportunities within aged care facilities.
According to China-Australia Free Trade Agreement, for health and aged care services, China will permit Australian service suppliers to establish profit-making aged care institutions throughout China and wholly Australian-owned hospitals in certain provinces. Australian-owned aged care institutions are now partnered with Chinese firms across China to help develop the aged care industry and improve the healthcare system. Hou Na, CCTV, Beijing.